Welcome to the ATA podcast, where we talk to former elite athletes sharing their insights and wisdom derived from successfully transitioning into life beyond the game. A very warm welcome to the Athlete Transition Accelerator podcast. Delighted to welcome Steve Bate to join us today. Now, this is a lengthy intro, so forgive me, Steve. I don't want to embarrass you, but this is a man who's represented GB, an Olympian in para-cycling, and some fabulous achievements. We've got 2 golds and a bronze at the Rio Olympics. We've got a silver medal at the Tokyo Olympics. We've got a silver at the Paris Olympics and a world record, no less, in qualifying. We've got a bronze medal at the Commonwealth Games, multiple golds and silvers in the para-cycling world championship. So that's a pretty nice introduction. Steve, first things first, huge thank you for spending time with us today on the podcast.
No worries, mate. You're welcome. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Now, obviously, we don't do those intros to embarrass, and you strike me as a pretty humble guy. But nonetheless, before we start talking about transition and life after sport, it's always nice to set the scene, as I tried to do that. Obviously, that's a phenomenal career. We ask every guest, it's probably a hard one to answer, but now that you've retired, now that you've stepped out of cycling, if you look back at that wonderful chapter of your life, and you had to pick out 1 or 2 memories, 1 or 2 achievements that really bring to the fore a sense of pride, what comes to mind for you when I ask you that?
Probably the first thing I think about, mate, is listening to that read back. I should have quit after Rio.
Yeah,
Went downhill from there, didn't it? No, I think probably that first pursuit in Rio stands out. Obviously, first race at the Games, world record, gold medal, incredible day. And the last one, really, the Paris pursuit. You know, that was probably whatever it was, 10 years apart. And, it was just we broke the world record again and qualified, narrowly lost the final to our fate, great Dutch rivals. But, just super proud of the consistency that, the team operated at over my time there. That's for me. I never wanted to just turn up. I wanted to show up and race, and I always wanted to win. And to operate at that level over that time was super proud of that.
Good man. No, and I always say this, people are probably tired of it. They've heard multiple interviews. Once you start talking about the sporting chapter, you could spend all day talking about that, because I'm fascinated about all the things you've achieved. But if it's possible, Steve, we've done some research, obviously, on your story, and it is an inspirational story. So we're going to talk about the transition, but you've only recently retired, the transition out of sport. But would you be kind enough just to give us a little bit of an insight into another transition that you have had to navigate and have resilience to go through? Sort of where you were, you were big into your climbing and outdoor pursuits, etc. And then you got diagnosed with a condition with your eyesight, didn't you? And then that led you into becoming a Paralympian. So can you just give us a little bit of an insight into that? Just set the scene for the listeners that are listening to this today.
Yeah, for sure. So I think I was about mid-30s, I think, probably 34, when I walked into a optometrist for a routine eye check. And that lasted about 20 minutes. And I got told that I probably should have someone come and collect me and not drive home. In fact, I should never drive a car again. I'd driven to the eye test as well, which was quite ironic.
Right.
So, it turned out I had a condition called retinitis pigmentosa, which is effectively tunnel vision. So it's degenerative. So basically, I don't have any peripheral vision. That has disappeared. So all those stem cells in my eyes have died, so my field of vision is just getting smaller and smaller. So at the moment, I think it's about a 6 or 7 degree visual field, compared to I say normal person, whatever that is. So that was a bit of a shock at the time. My goal was to become an alpine guide, to guide people in the big mountains like Everest and high altitude stuff. That was
right. Wow.
That was my dream, and I was working through the qualifications to kind of achieve that. I was still a long way off it. If I'm honest, it wasn't something that was in touching distance, but that was my path. I was on kind of like probably in another 5 years, I think I would have probably achieved that goal. but this threw a spanner in the works. Obviously, it's they said the worst case scenarios you'll go blind in 4 years,
Right.
um, and there's no cure. So, kind of good luck with it. See you later.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
and that was kind of that really. So yeah, that changed everything. Obviously, I lost my driver's license straight away. Um, and that was a massive blow at the time. Like that was a huge blow. Because that meant I couldn't operate in the mountains, and I kind of realized pretty quickly it's like, who on earth is going to want to go into the mountains with a guy with a white cane? That's not,
Right. I
that's not
appreciate you human. I shouldn't laugh, but yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
hear what you're
It's
saying.
not, yeah, it's not confidence inspiring. You're not
No.
following me up this mountain, guys, and
Yeah.
tapping away up a path. Yeah, it was kind of, it was what it was, and my kind of, I guess my world fell apart. I stopped doing anything, stopped climbing, stopped riding, stopped doing everything for about 6 months, and just was in a world trapped of I can't do that, and it was all kind of I guess self enforced on myself, but I guess I was just trying to work out where my life was going and
Of
what I was
course.
going to do. um, and then a friend kind of politely reminded me that hey, you're just losing your eyesight, but you can still live your life. um, and you should try out for the paracycling team because you can race on the back of a tandem. And at that point, I was like, "Oh no, no, I can't do that. I can't be an athlete now. I'm mid 30s. That ship sailed really." Um, but what it did do was it made me think about actually what I can do and what I can't do. And the reality was at that time, excuse me, the only thing I couldn't do was drive a car.
Hmm.
Everything else was me putting barriers in the way of I can't do that because I'm going to go blind. And that really opened up my mind to thinking, right, okay, so I looked at it logically. I'm a very logical, practical person. I looked at it logically and I thought, well, if I am going to go blind in 4 years, I need to make sure I do everything I want to do in those 4 years and I see as much as I can so that in 4 years' time, if I lose my sight, I'm not bitter at the fact I've wasted 4 years of my life when I could
Hmm.
have been out doing incredible stuff. So that kind of led to the solo of LCAP.
Well, you've
And
got, yeah. Don't. I'm not going to let you gloss over that because I've seen, like most people will have be aware of this particular challenge. That Netflix has various documentaries and things, isn't there? But the
Mm,
fact that I was waiting for you to mention that you scaled that, and this, I mean, again, you said, well, I stopped climbing, I stopped cycling. Just talk me through the mindset then. So basically, you just said, well, I've got to get as much done as I can. So let's get down to Yosemite. Let's go and tackle this. I mean, it must. Well, don't let me put words in your mouth. Just tell me about that experience, what you did, because you must have broke some sort of ground there, some sort of record to have gone up there with the debilitating eye condition.
yeah, it turns out like I was the first visually impaired person, registered blind person to solo it, but that wasn't like I only found that out afterwards. And that was never, that the whole point of me going there was there were two things really. One, I worked out that I was a dreamer. So I was one of those people that someone would come back from an awesome trip or something and say, "Oh, I've just done that," and go, "Oh, I wish I could do that. That'd be awesome." And dream about what it'd be like to do it and then never do it.
Hmm.
Um, so there was kind of that aspect of it, and I thought I can't afford now to live my life like that. If I'm going to go blind, I can't afford to be. Oh, I wish I could do that. If I want to do it, I need to go and do it,
Right.
and just stop making excuses for myself not to. And the second thing was it was just a point to prove to myself that I could still live the life that I wanted to live, regardless of this diagnosis. Really,
Yes. Yeah.
that's and it's very cliche, but that was, I mean, it was for no one else. It wasn't for any media or anything like that. Like I mean, when I came back, a friend of mine had messaged a newspaper, and so some reporter called me and said, "Oh, tell me about this. Oh, are you the first blind person to do it?" I was like, "I haven't got a clue." And he was like,
Right.
"Well, you might want to find out because that kind of makes a pretty good story." But honestly, I didn't really care about the story. The fact that I'd gone and done it, that was what was important to me because I, I guess I proved to myself, um, I can still do whatever I want to do. And,
Yes.
and really to be honest, that really made me understand my potential as a human being, and that without the LCAP thing, the Paralympic thing never would have happened.
I was going to say, so this came prior to you
Yeah,
stepping
yeah,
into the power world. So it was
yeah,
almost like a realization of your potential. I like that. I like
yeah,
that a lot. So
yeah.
just before we move on from that, just for the uneducated amongst us, just give us the basic sort of statistics. How high is LCAP? Because people will have heard of it, but they don't know. And how long did it take you to get up there?
Yeah, so El Cap stands, it's like 1,000 meters high, so it's a kilometer high. It's a sheer rock face. So the route that I climbed on, it's called Zodiac, which is slightly overhanging. It's kind of made popular by Alex Honnold, obviously, in the film Solo.
Yeah,
And it took it only took Alex about 4 hours to solo the route. It took me 6 days to climb it.
right.
Um, so I was sleeping on the rock face. I had to carry all of my water, all of my food. So I was
Wow.
hauling a bag behind me that was probably about my body weight at the time, probably about 80 odd kilos with, kind of 40, 50 liters of water in it. Super hot, so the rock, because it's such a huge piece of granite, it just radiates the heat. It catches the sun all day. So you just like, it's like trying to climb up this big radiator. So you just like, you're sweating buckets all the
Yeah,
time. And yeah,
amazing.
sleep on a portal edge at night. So you set up a little hammock that hangs off the rock face, and you sleep in that. And yeah, I mean, it's just incredible, mate. It's like the coolest place. And even if you're not a climber, I'd say go and check out Yosemite Valley because it's just so incredible. It's such a beautiful place.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I can only imagine. I've seen some of these documentaries, and you just sit literally on the edge of yourself, going, "Wow!" So, huge respect for you. Huge respect for doing that. Phenomenal. So that opened up your eyes to your potential, and then just talk us through then that transition into becoming an athlete. I think there's a couple of reasons why this is so powerful. Obviously, the shock that you've gone through, the diagnosis. I think a lot of people can draw strength from the fact that that wasn't a breaking point, but actually it sort of emboldened you to say whole new chapter. We often don't talk about the sporting chapter, but I love the fact that you've gone into this space with it with a really empowered mindset of, well, I have this disability, but I can still compete. And I also like the fact that your age. So no, there's no disrespect meant there. You're not an old man, but as you say, you're in your mid 30s and you're stepping in and continued until you're 48. Is that right? When you retired
Yeah,
recently? Is it?
what a
Yeah.
beauty.
So that in itself is enough. So for those people that are listening, whatever the sporting discipline that think I'm getting on a bit, age is against me. Well, you're sort of debunking that. And also that mindset, well, I can't do this and I can't do that. You've just spent 6 days summiting El Cap and now you're going into the Paralympic world. So just give us a sort of an overview of how you sort of stepped into that space then.
Yeah, so I this friend of mine, Karen Dark, who was actually on the cycling team. She is a crazy, crazy woman, incredible woman. So she was a hand cyclist, so she's in a wheelchair. So this is the woman who told me to get on with my life, basically. And the best thing she ever did for me. But she organised, well, she let me know about a talent ID day in Scotland for paracycling. And so my wife and I drove down to Glasgow. We're living in the north of Scotland at the time. I went on this watt bike, did this test, and wasn't particularly great. Like I joke, the coach that was there is now the head coach of the program. So he saw me right from day one to the exiting as a world champion, which was an amazing journey. John Hewitt, he's a great bloke, and and he sort of said, "Oh yeah, your numbers are okay. We might be in touch."
Hmm.
And he said, "Oh, we might get you back in 3 weeks' time." And this was literally 3 weeks before I went to LCAP. So I said,
Right.
"Oh, look, I'm going to be in America climbing." So and I thought that was it. That I thought that was going to be, boy, you can't tell someone like British Cycling, "Oh, just wait a second, I'm not ready yet." Um, and that's where I left it really. And I went and climbed LCAP. I was out there for 3.5 weeks. I came back and I was so full of confidence. I was just like, there's that chance of becoming a Paralympian was just like, I have to get after this.
Hmm.
Like I've got to try for this because you just never know. So I phoned John up and said, "Hey man, I'm just back from America, just wondering if you're still interested." And he was like, "Oh right, okay, yeah, great. Well, we've got a training camp in 3 weeks' time down in Wales for a week. Could you come to that?" And I was like, all right. So I just had 3.5 weeks off work. I had to go back to work and say, oh, in 3 weeks' time, can I have another week off to go down to Wales and ride with British Cycling? And they were like, yeah, of course, go for it. So they were super supportive, which was great. And yeah, I went down there, and the kind of rest is history. But this was me being proactive, because if I didn't phone John when I came back from LCAP, that career never would have happened.
Right.
They would have never phoned me back, and ironically, the thing was, I think that got my foot in the door was John told me this story years later. I think it might have been after Rio, but he said the manager at the time of the development squad wasn't impressed with my numbers at all. Like, I was very, very mediocre in terms
Right.
of power output and stuff on the bike. And but John said, like, I buried myself in the trial, like, because Karen said to me, if you can walk out of there, you've not done yourself justice. You want to crawl out. Your legs want to be ruined.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. But my numbers were terrible because I wasn't a cyclist. And anyway, but John appreciate, he thought, oh well, this guy's trying hard. That's the main thing. And then obviously climbing LCAP off the back of that, he's like, well, this guy's got an edge. Like, there's something about this guy, he's not going to give up.
Hmm.
And everyone says it, don't they? Like, about grit and determination. It's like you can coach a lot of things, but you can't coach someone to go deeper than they've ever gone before. They've got to walk that corridor themselves.
Yeah.
And I guess he realized I had that ability after soloing LCAP. So he went back to the manager and said, listen, Steve just phoned. I think we should get him back, because he's just gone and spent 6 days on a rock face on his own, and he's half blind. Give me a chance with him. I'll teach him how to ride a bike, because I think he's got the minerals.
Love it. What a story. No, I love it. And see, this is why it's so, as I said, the word inspirational, it genuinely is, and that word gets bandied about a lot. But there's messages and there's themes that we hear all the time when we talk to ex-athletes and their story of transition. But for anybody listening to this, there's so many fabulous little sort of nuggets there, and that persistence, the fact that you've proactively opened this door and then had this wonderful chapter. I think that's a lesson to all of us, that you can sit on the sidelines talking about if buts and maybes, or you can actually go knock on that door and create opportunity for yourself.
Yeah, again, that came back to that whole kind of, I'm going to go blind in 4 years. I need to make this count. And in another lifetime, I would have let that pass and just thought, oh well, and probably said to everyone, well, I probably could have made the games, but just they never called me back.
They didn't call me back. Yeah, exactly.
I was just
exactly.
like, no, I'm not. I want to. And on all of this, the LCAP thing, the whole journey with British cycling. I guess after LCAP, I wanted to discover what I was capable of. I wanted to know what my potential was. And growing up in New Zealand, obviously being a huge fan of the All Blacks, I always wondered. I was a terrible rugby player when I was younger. Always wanted to be an All Black. I was terrible, but I always wondered if I had all the support, that an All Black gets, could I be world class?
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of the main thing at the root of this going down the professional cycling route, BC, is I've got all of that on tap. Right, you've got the best in the world, you've got the best coaches, nutritionists, S&C, everything. Can you be the best in the world? And that's what it became for me, a journey of discovery of what can I do? And it was never about age or anything. It was just me trying to be the best I could be.
Yeah. Love it.
Turns out you can.
Yeah. So, well, you did it.
With the right support,
you did. You reached that summit, and literally LCAT, and also best in the world in your pursuit in the cycling. So, well, it's a fabulous story, Steve. Just bring us up to, as I said earlier, it was only recently that you officially retired. I think October last year. So, I don't want to presume, but is this a story of someone being able to retire on their terms? That's a rarity in a lot of athletes' worlds. But just give us a little bit of a view of, well, what made you finally call time? And what are you doing now? I appreciate it's only a few months since you've officially announced your retirement, but it's always nice to understand what was the driver, what made you make that decision, and then stepping into what are you doing now? What does the start of this new chapter look like for you?
Yeah, it's there's a few good questions now. I'll see if I can pull them together. So I decided after the Paris Games that I wasn't going to continue to LA.
Mm-hmm.
I just competed. I just put out the best performance I'd ever put out in my life in the pursuit and won a silver medal. But broke the world record.
Yeah,
Uh,
wow.
Went way quicker than what we even were planning to go. It was incredible. And just on that at 40, what was I, 47? I think I just turned 47 a few days before we raced. All of my metrics in terms of VO2, body fat, all of those were the best I've ever been in my career. And that was at
Right.
47, so
Good for you.
again, it was like having oh, trust me, I've slipped, mate.
Yeah. Well, they can now. You've retired. You're allowed the indulgence here or there.
um, but yeah, it was just it was an incredible team that we had around us, and that kind of lead into those games. Coaching staff and everything were just absolutely bang on. And I actually got a call from the manager about a month before the games, called into the office, and I was like, oh God. Am I not going to make it?
Right.
Is this the cut here? And he said, no, you're definitely going. We just want to know if you're going to retire at the games. He says, I don't want to presume anything, and I'm not asking you to retire, but he said, if you do, we just want to be prepared. We don't want to be left fielded like you just finish and go, yeah, I'm done and walk away.
Mhm.
We want to have some stuff prepared. And I said, like I haven't thought about it. My sole focus is on the pursuit at the games, and that's a bridge I'll cross afterwards. I didn't want anything to get in the way of that pursuit, really. No emotion or anything, and just be very clinical with it. And then 2 weeks after, 2 weeks after, I got called back into the office with the manager and my coach, and they said, right, where are you at? What are your thoughts? Just won a silver medal, just broken the world record. We want you to go to LA. What are your thoughts? You're still competitive. Um, where do you stand? And it's really hard when you come back after a games, because it's such an incredible experience, right? It's so good, and you're just buzzing with it. And it's like the hardest decision to make was for you to make the choice to walk away from that. It's one thing being told you're not good enough, you're not going, we don't
Mhm.
need you anymore, because the writing's on the wall then, right? But when you're still competitive and you're in that environment, like it's just I neglected this a lot probably while I was in the environment. So it wasn't until I decided I was going to leave and you start to appreciate that environment you're in, and just like being in that world-class environment day in, day out. It's like how fortunate, what a gift to have. Um, so anyway, I said to them, I'm not going to go to LA. This is in October of 24. So you get 6 weeks. So just to give people an idea, in cycling and a lot of sports, UK sport funded sports, you get kind of 4 to 6 weeks to decide whether or not you're going to continue for the next cycle. So you literally come back from the games, you have a few weeks off, and then you've got to go and say, yep, I'm going to commit for another 4 years. So it's a very short window.
Yeah.
And obviously you're buzzing in that window, so it's very easy to go, yeah, I'll stay, I'll stay. But I mean, I knew deep down that performance that I put out in Paris in the pursuit was the best. The work it took, the effort. I couldn't climb back up that mountain. That was and not in 4 years' time. At 51 or something. Um,
Yeah.
I knew that was going to be a really, really big ask. And the Dutch guys who won, Tristan was 26, right? I'm old enough to be his dad.
Yeah.
And everyone said to me, "Oh, you've got to carry on." It's like, think of think of how much worse I'll be at 51, and think of how much better Tristan will be at 30.
Mm.
It's just like and like I said at the start, I want to win. I'm not just there because it's cool to be there. I want to be the best. So it just, I just decided that that was too much. I was really happy to walk away from Paris. I felt like I'd achieved everything in my career, and now was a good time to leave.
Yeah. Yeah. And
But
I could go on. Sorry.
I was just going to say, but the thing was, I didn't want to just retire and disappear into the ether. I wanted to finish with my teammates. So I said in that meeting, listen, I'm not going to go to LA, but I'd like to race the World Championships next year and finish there, draw a line under it there. Want to finish with the team because that's, I guess they're like your family, they become your family, don't
Of
they? So
course. Yeah.
they're your mates and stuff. So it's like, I want to finish with the team. So yeah, so that was, they were like, right, okay, well, we're going to have to push this up the ladder. Senior leadership team are going to have to agree this. We're on board with it. You've given us over a decade, but we'll have to let you know. Worst case scenario is you'll be let go at Christmas. And then my coach phoned me about it 2 weeks later and said, "Are you actually okay with that? Like, if Paris is your last race, are you okay with that?" And I was like, "Well, it's not a bad one to finish on, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not how I intend to go out. You know, it's like I want one more race. I want to pin a number on one more time, pull on that skin suit one more time, you know, and that's that."
Yeah.
It's funny thinking about it now. It's quite emotional. It's like,
No, I can see that in
well
you, and
over a year ago, you know.
yeah, but it's totally understandable, Steve. I mean, what a journey, and it means so much to you, and that's why the emotion comes to the fore. And it's not, it's lovely to see because the passion that you've got and that chapter you had. But I think being able to be in control of that decision is rare. That's why it's lovely to hear. We speak to a lot of athletes that it's injury and that's it. As you said earlier, the decision is made. They can no longer do what they want to do, but that doesn't make the emotional wrestle any easier for you. As you say, you made the call, but you are undoubtedly still processing that because it's been a matter of months, hasn't it? It's not that long ago. So now your setting behind you might give us a little bit of a clue to the next part of that then. So tell us a little bit about how you are spending your time now, Steve.
Yeah, well, now, so I'm in a workshop. For those of you listening who can't see this, I'm in a wood workshop. So I'm actually a carpenter by trade. So I was removed from school at 15. I wasn't the best student in the world,
Okay.
but went straight from school into a carpentry apprenticeship. So I built houses straight from school and had a career in that before I then went into the outdoors and then somehow found myself as a full-time athlete. But so I've kind of gone back to my roots in a way. But now, similar to you on this podcast, actually, I realized in the last couple of years of my journey as an athlete, like, we acquire all of these medals and they all sit in the shoebox under your bed. And the more athletes I spoke to, the more of them said exactly the same thing. Oh yeah, they're in a sock in a drawer, or they're
Yeah.
in a box
Right.
under the bed, and I started thinking, oh well, maybe I should make some sort of display to display, what I've achieved.
Hmm.
Um, so I started knocking around with a few things and sent a few pictures to people on the team, and they were just like, "Oh my God, this is incredible, mate! You have to make these and sell these." Um, and that, I guess, that kind of helped make that decision as to where I was going, because the a lot of people, like you say, I've managed to finish on my terms. It's
Hmm.
all great. It was all agreed with BC. I raced that last race. We won, which was incredible. So I finished a world champion. It's like proper,
Yeah.
like,
Fairy tale stuff.
yeah, the way every athlete dreams of going out.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the Dutch guys didn't attend that race, so it
Oh,
made
did
it
they not?
easier.
Right.
Yeah. So, well, it's like so. But I said to I speak to them pretty regularly. They're great lads, huge rivals on the track, but great mates off it. And I said to Patrick, the pilot, I was like, "Oh, was that my farewell gift?" Because those guys are still racing, they're still
Right.
dominating.
Yeah.
Uh, so I was just kind of like, "Oh, is that my
Mark of respect. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I love it. So is there a business? Is there a name to what you're doing now? Is there a business that we can give the sort of shout out to? Obviously, we can put links and things into the show notes. But how do people find what you're doing in the carpentry world now, Steve?
yeah, so it's just Steve Bate Woodcraft is who I am. There's an Instagram page on it. Like, it's so new, I haven't even got a website or anything. But yeah, basically, so I make metal displays, furniture. I've done a load of awards as well. I don't know if I can say this, but I'll tell you this anyway. But I've just been given the contract to make all of the Tour of Britain podium awards.
Wow, fabulous.
So there's 85 awards to make for the Tour of Britain. So I've got that coming up later in summer for the men and the women.
I love it. And I know some of our research is wrong, so you can shoot me down. But did you get some of the old velodrome track and you sort of recycling that into what you're making?
Yeah, that's it there, up on these shelves here.
Nice.
So and actually, there's a bench seat behind me. If I lean out
Yeah.
the way,
Yeah.
which is that's a velodrome, made out the velodrome as well. So
Wow, I love that. I love that.
yeah,
What a
yeah.
wonderful way to utilize that timber.
Yeah, I mean it's horrendous to use, mate. It's horrible wood, but you know it's what you know that this track is from 2011 to 2019 when it was down. And actually, if you think about the who's who of British cycling and
Hmm.
everyone who's delivered any sort of performance in that time, from London right through to Paris, everyone's ridden on that track,
Yeah,
which is phenomenal. Like you
yeah,
think of the names like that, you know, you can rattle off the best, the Sirs, the
yeah,
MBEs, the OBEs, everyone has ridden on this bit of track. So it's pretty special to have
yeah.
it in the workshop.
Yeah, 100%. No, I love it. I love it. So you've stepped into that space now. I suppose one of the things that we always say to people, Steve, and it's still very early in your transition, but nonetheless, I'm interested to your perspective. When it comes to transition, part of the reason of this podcast is everyone's a genius in hindsight. So it's helpful for existing athletes to listen to those people who've walked the path ahead of them, listen to their insights, listen to their perspectives, and just download it into their thinking and their mindset. So we always like to ask, is there a do and a don't that you could bring to the fore for us? So something that you would advocate, you should do this. It'll make your transition easier. And is there possibly a don't? Hey, don't do this because it's going to make that transition harder. Now, I appreciate that question. You haven't had much time to that to percolate through your mind because it's not that long since you retired. But nonetheless, is there anything that comes to mind from your personal transition? Any wisdom that you could share on that question?
Oh yeah, that's easy, really, mate. Do have a plan, right? So you know, I was lucky that for me that was a year in the making in terms
Hmm.
of with British cycling, right? So I sat down after Paris. They allowed me to race for another year, so I had a whole year to kind of get my stuff together because I knew I was leaving after that race. That was it. I was done. You know, even though we won it, so many people were like, "Oh, but you're going to carry on now. You're a world champion." It's like, no, I am done. That's it. You know, this is the end of the road for me when it comes to riding a bike. So get yourself a plan. And that plan, you know, I mean, that was probably, I'd say, 3 years in the making. Um,
Okay.
if I knew what I was going to do in terms of the whole metal display woodworking thing again, I probably would have left after Tokyo if that was really clear then, because it was only the fact that it was a short cycle, obviously, with the COVID thing. So it was only a 3 year
Yep.
cycle at Paris. And I was still pretty clueless about what I was going to do afterwards, was the reason why I stayed, really, because I wanted to work it out.
Interesting. And that, sorry to interrupt, Steve, that's something we hear a lot. People don't quite have that plan, so they keep going. And that's fine, but in some cases, their body's not necessarily supporting that decision, particularly in contact sports, etc. They really know and they want to step out, but they don't have a plan. So how did that? Is there any sort of perspective you can give on how that plan clarified? What did you do for that to sort of crystallize in your mind, Steve? Was it just a case of, well, hey, this is a passion. This is something I've always had a passion for. I'm very good at it. Let's explore it further. Or was it conversations? How did you sort of decide, right, this is it. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, well, I didn't think I I I didn't want to go backwards in terms of, you know, you've just achieved all this great stuff. And originally, I guess for me, going back to carpentry work felt like a massive step backwards. So I'd kind of just written it off really,
Okay.
and that was probably one of the biggest problems, because I was trying to think of something new. And you
Mm.
know, I love working with my hands. I love being creative. I love making physical things, but I'd kind of, you know, drawn a line through the woodworking side of it because like, well, I don't want to take a step backwards, you know.
Interesting.
But but the reality was like I couldn't work on a site and build houses now anyway with my eyesight. And actually, you know, it's still deteriorating. I'm still going to go blind. So actually having a small workshop set up, I can navigate around it pretty easy. Everything's familiar every day. I know where everything is.
Hmm.
So, you know, I should be able to do that for a really long time. So that became really clear, really clear. Like you say, it's like I love doing this. It's a passion. I love being creative. So I was like, and that whole metal display thing kind of like that was it's like light bulb moment. Yeah, I can do what I love doing, be creative, which doesn't involve working outside in winters.
Yeah, yeah. Up on the building the houses side.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
so that's it. That's a fabulous answer there. What about on the don't side of things then?
the don't side again is pretty easy, and I think athletes make a massive mistake in this, and it's more of a do than a don't, but it's be honest,
Hmm.
don't be dishonest. Have like I sat down with my manager or my coach and said, listen, this is how I want my career to play out. And of course, it's a risk. They could have cut me. They could have let me go at their Christmas, like they said. But if you've if you've given your sport, which most athletes have, you've given them years of your life. Most organizations want to repay you. If you're a genuinely good person, you've given your all to your sport. There's no reason for them to turn around and axe you and just be like, "Oh, get out." People people want that legacy, right? They want, and more so, I think organizations want athletes to leave on good terms.
Hmm.
It's better for everyone, right? You don't want to go away. I'd spent over a decade with British cycling. There was no way I wanted to leave in a negative space.
Of
You know,
course.
they'd given me a, incredible career. So be honest, have those conversations. Say, listen, I'm thinking about leaving. And I've been in the game long enough to know that, elite sport's pretty brutal, I'm pretty cutthroat, but I've given them everything. I gave them everything in 10 years.
Hmm.
And yeah, and I guess that was, that was the repayment where they said, yeah, fine, you can finish how you want to, mate. You've given us everything. So, it's the least we can do.
Yeah.
And in the next interview with BC, there were the whole SLT came into that. Normally it's two people. There were nine people in that room and three people on Zoom
Oh,
listening to what
wow.
I have to say. And the
Yeah.
main question they were asking is, how can we get more athletes to leave like you have?
Right.
You
Right.
know, um,
And
and
what was it? What was the answer? Just that two-way respect, the fact that you were transparent, they were transparent. What did you share with them to that question?
yeah, well, hey, it's easier when it's your call, right? Because so often it's not like you say. So often it's like, oh, you're injured. Sorry, mate, you're going to have to go.
Hmm.
So I think, and that's the hard thing. How do you answer that question where it's like, if it's your dream and you want to go to a games, but you're not cutting it, you've got to go,
Hmm.
and that's a hard thing to deal with. But yeah, I just said it's the honesty thing. It's the being honest with with each other. And giving people a chance to get out on their terms, right? So it may not be that, you end up where you want to end up. You get to go to a World Cup or you get to go to whatever your discipline is. But it might be that they say like you've got to go, and you might be able to say, well, hang on, there's this race coming up, there's this Worlds or there's this World Cup. I'd love to race it. That is my last race.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I'll leave happily, and you can invest everything you like into that result, and walk away thinking, well, I gave it everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I think that's such good advice as well, because regrets are the things that are corrosive and gnaw away at us. So to be able to shape that exit and to, as you say, walk away without regrets, I think is hugely
yeah,
impactful in the transition. We
yeah,
work with a lot of athletes. Obviously, we're talking confidence with a lot of athletes, and there's some people really, really struggling because they did leave with regrets, or they didn't handle things in a transparent way, and it just sort of soured the final
yeah,
chapter.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
no, I see some great advice in there. Well, Steve,
I think
last
just
go on,
one
mate.
other thing to add into that, mate, is the other thing is I think don't fall into the trap of thinking that your sport owes you something. I see it so often with, and the cycling team of teammates that have left, and they're trying to get every last little thing out of the system like they're owed something. And I think that's a really negative way to go about how to finish your career.
Hmm.
You've been given, if I speak in on my career, like I was flying all around the world to race for the country. I was taken to some amazing venues and put up for weeks at a time, in some amazing places, a lot of not amazing places, not amazing hotels
Yeah.
or terrible flights. But when I reflected on my career, God, this is what I was saying earlier. What a opportunity. I left not feeling British cycling owed me anything.
Mm.
They gave me a wonderful career. They gave me a load of wonderful friends. And part of that is I think the lens you see that through. I could have left going, well, I've given BC 10 years of my life. What are they going to give me back now? It's a two-way thing, you
Yeah.
know. I
Yeah.
gave them my
No.
commitment, they gave me an amazing career.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. So I'd say don't think you owed something. Don't go into it with that lens of, well, I've given you X amount of years of my life. And, even if you're injured, even if you get injured, you're doing what you love.
Yeah.
Don't hold those people accountable for an injury or, that it's, maybe that's easy for me to say because it ended so well for me. But, it's like they didn't want you to get injured.
Mm.
Jesus Christ, you're like, they wanted you to carry on your career and have a wonderful career. I'm sure they did. So go into it with the like, not what you're owed.
Yeah.
I
No,
think.
I think you talk a lot of sense. Well, listen, I could talk to you all day on this, but the quick fire final question from me. This is a question that's become sort of the anchor that we finish everything up. I'll hit you with three. You unpack them in whatever order you want. So the first one is best piece of advice you've ever been given. Might be sports related, could be life related, but a nugget of wisdom that you'd share with the listeners. Second one is best book you've read. Is there a book that you'd recommend or an audio or something that's had an impact on you? And last but not least, you're having a dinner party. You're bringing three people to dinner with you, alive or dead. You've got special powers. You can bring them back from the dead if you wish. Who's on your guest list? Who's going to give you the best night's entertainment and company? So there's the three quick fire. You dive into whichever one feels most right for you.
Well, well. I think a book I would recommend, and I'm sure you've heard this before, Viktor Frankl,
Man's
a
Search for Meaning.
And Search for Meaning.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll just read the first half of it because the second half he goes into all the psycho nonsense babble, and it's like kind of loses the kind of the impact. But the story of him and Auschwitz, incredible.
yes, yeah, it's a phenomenal book.
The whole grateful side of things and just what keeps you going. So I'd recommend that.
Yeah, it's a great one.
In terms of piece of advice, just be humble. Just be humble. Doesn't matter whether you won a million things or you won one thing. No one needs to know about it. No one cares really. It's just like don't get your identity wrapped up in your results. That's it. Don't get your identity wrapped. Be who you are, regardless of win, lose, or draw. Just be humble. Be a good dude. I'd say that's
Yeah,
my
love that. Love that. And it's something, without embarrassing you, it's something that shines through in this conversation, your humility. So I think you're certainly a walking, talking endorsement of that. And I'm curious on this one. So who's coming to dinner?
Who's coming to dinner? God, there's so many great people. Three people.
Only three. I know it's hard. It's a challenge. I know it's a challenge, but nonetheless, shoot from the gut. What comes to mind?
Well, the first one I'd say is Richie McCaw, All Black,
Yeah,
All Black captain.
fabulous.
He'd be a really interesting guy to talk to in terms of that leadership model and really putting everything on the line.
Yeah, that world class endorsement you talked about earlier. He epitomizes that, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get a musician, I reckon.
Hmm.
Someone pretty. I'm gonna say Elton John because I think he'd be a right character.
Yeah, he'd have some stories. Yeah,
Very entertaining dude.
yeah, I like it. Got one more place.
And one more. Um, hmm. Who else? Hmm. I'd say my wife Caroline, so she
Yeah,
could share in that.
nice touch.
She
Yeah,
could.
she'll be listening to this, so that's a nice touch. Happy wife, happy life. You've done well there.
No, she won't listen to this, Matron. She's heard me rabbiting on way too long.
Well, no, I like it, and it's a bit of fun at the end there, obviously, but it's always nice to see where your mind goes. But aside from the dinner side, which is undoubtedly a bit of fun, the book recommendation for anyone that's not read it, I've read it. It's a phenomenal read, and the advice is great advice. Whether you're an elite athlete, retired, existing, or an industry outside of sport, I think it's a great piece of advice as well. So, Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I think your story, genuinely, I don't say it lightly, is truly inspirational. The fact that you've endured what you've endured, but you've turned it into your strength, and you've shown people actually age is never a barrier, disability is not a barrier. I wish you the best of luck with what you're doing now in your new chapter. We'll obviously put links in so people can find you there. But just for anybody listening, if they want to reach out, they want to connect with you, what's the best way to do that, Steve? Is it Instagram? Is it LinkedIn? Where are you most active for people to find you and connect with you there?
Yeah, probably Instagram. Like I am on LinkedIn, but I check that pretty periodically. But
Yeah.
probably Instagram. But yeah, if I can help and just with in terms of shaping the way you want to leave or anything, yeah, hit us up. And yeah, it worked out pretty well for me. I was pretty fortunate, really.
Good man. Well, thanks again, Steve. It's been a real pleasure talking to you today.
Right on, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this week on our ATA podcast. If you found this conversation insightful and it resonates with your journey, please subscribe, follow the show, and stay connected with us for more insights, resources, and information on how we at ATA are supporting your preparation for life beyond the game.